On a cold night on November 13, 1974, 23-year-old Ronald DeFeo shot his sleeping relatives in cold blood: his mother, father, 2 sisters and 2 brothers. The guy denied his guilt for a long time, trying to convince the police that a gang of a local gangster attacked his family, but later confessed to his deed and received 6 prison terms of 25 years for his crime. But in his story, new nuances appeared. The neighbors were as surprised as the police. Why on a quiet night in a residential area no one heard a series of shots? Why didn't any of the family members wake up from the screams of others? And according to Ronald himself, a month before the crime, he heard strange voices in his head, ordering him to deal with his relatives. However, DeFeo went to jail for life, and the Lutz family moved into his home, better known as Amityville, 13 months later. George, Kathy, and their 3 children moved into the mansion the week before Christmas. The Latts were a believing family, and therefore, the day before their arrival, they invited a familiar priest to bless the house. But as soon as he crossed the threshold of the house, the priest sensed something was wrong, and he developed a fever, as with a fever. And when it came time to sprinkle the corridors with holy water, he suddenly heard a male voice from the bedroom on the 2nd floor, ordering him, "Get out." The frightened pastor nevertheless finished the ceremony and did not begin to tell the Latts about what had happened, mistaking the voice for a game of his imagination. The first days in Amityville, the Lutz family lived a quiet life. But soon strange things began to happen. To begin with, hordes of flies settled in the house, the presence of which in the cold winter was already alarming in itself. The smells of perfume and excrement hovered in the corridors from nowhere. Windows and doors slammed shut of their own accord. The Lutzi's 5-year-old daughter, Missy, told her parents about her new friends, a little boy and a pig-like creature with bright red glowing eyes that no one but her had ever seen. A few days later, the head of the family, George, while in the garden, saw a pig described by his daughter in the windows of one of the bedrooms, but, having run into the house, he did not find anything in it. Other members of the family began to report red eyes watching from the windows. George Lutz, for some unknown reason, began to wake up every night at exactly 3:15, exactly at the time when Ronald DeFeo began to kill his loved ones. The Latts made another attempt to consecrate the house. This time, with a crucifix in his hands, George himself walked through the mansion. And this time, he personally heard a formidable voice ordering him, "Stop it." The Lutz's last night in Amityville had been a nightmare, with windows and doors slamming all over the house, and the walls shaking with thunder as if a parade was marching through the building. Unable to withstand such tension, George and his family hurriedly packed their things and fled the cursed mansion. In total, they lived there for 28 days. 20 days after the Lutzes fled, Ed and Lorraine Warren arrived in Amityville at the request of a local journalist. In the house they were accompanied by a team of reporters and parapsychologists, but not by the Latts themselves. They expressed a desire to never again approach the deadly place. Lorraine tried to make contact with the ghosts and later admitted to seeing the bodies of the DeFeo family lying on the floor and covered in sheets, after which something seemed to push her and the vision disappeared. Meanwhile, the Warrens' paranormal investigators have made an even more interesting discovery. They left a camera in the hallway on the 2nd floor, taking pictures of the stairs and the entrance to the room of the Lutz's youngest daughter, Missy, every few seconds. Later, having developed the pictures, in one of the frames the detectives discovered something that greatly surprised and frightened them. A child was peeking out from behind the bedroom door, which at the time of shooting could not be in the house. The photo was sent to George Lutz, and when he asked Missy if she knew the boy in the photo, she answered yes. It was the same boy with whom she often played in Amityville. And who, moreover, was very similar to the youngest son of the DeFeo family, who was killed that bloody night. Studies have shown that before the murder of the DeFeo family in Amityville, only one person died due to illness, and it is unlikely that he was the evil spirit that forced Ronald to commit such a cruel act. But as a result of further searches, it turned out that the land on which the mansion stands was previously owned by John Ketchum, a practicing black magician. He bequeathed to bury himself on his territory, and his remains are still buried somewhere near Amityville. According to the Warrens, such a dark past is guaranteed to attract suffering and pain to these places. The story of the Latzes received wide publicity after the publication in 1977 of Jay Anson's nonfiction novel The Amityville Horror. By the way, a direct participant in the story, George Lutz, was dissatisfied with both the first film adaptation of the book and the subsequent remake of 2005. According to him, he was disgusted by the very fact that the terrible events that happened to his family, Hollywood studios are trying to use for entertainment purposes. However, in 2005, George contributed to the documentary The Real Amityville Horror, and in 2012, his son Daniel starred in My Amityville Horror, giving his perspective on the family's creepy story. Lorraine Warren also took part in the creation of the last tape. Despite all the terrible events, the popularity of Amityville had a positive effect on him financially. Bought by the Lutz family for $80,000, the house resurfaced on the property market in 2010 with a value of $950,000. The current owners of the cursed mansion have almost completely restored it, in particular, having got rid of the famous semicircular window from the children's room at the auction, and they are extremely negative about the history of the house and refuse all kinds of interviews. Well, either the spirits living in Amityville have finally found peace, or its new owners have not yet realized how lucky they were with the purchase.
Thank you for your attention. Subscribe to the channel.